Okay, I'm going to just explain 10 of the things that we're going to look for and do differently in the home buying process to make sure that we're considering your home. So a couple of things, there's going to be 4 things that I'm going to stress that we're going to do before, Mel, you can come up a little bit so that we're going to do before you even go to look at a house. So the first one is we're going to look at location. So you can drive by it or look on a map and look at if there's maybe a tower in the backyard, a cell tower or something. Ideally, we won't even go to look at that kind of home, just because we know the effects that that could have on your house. But at the same time, we're going to test, not guess. So we can get an EMF reader out there just to see if it could pose an issue for your house. The second one, we're going to make sure we look at the parish's county records to make sure that the person next door isn't an offender that could put you or your kids or your family in danger, okay? The third one is we're going to look at the property disclosures. When you find a house that you're interested in, you want to go see it, the property disclosures are available. We're going to look at those and see if there's any clues in there that there may have been an issue. For instance, they might put in there that the roof was replaced with Ida, okay? So we're going to ask questions and we're going to say, how long after the damage was done was the roof replaced? Because if it was a while, there could have been water damage. Is there some water damage that we don't know about? We're just going to ask questions. The fourth one is, well, and also to that, we're going to make sure that the property disclosures we know do not tell us nearly anything. Most of the time, there's nothing on there. Some people are nice enough to disclose things. Sometimes there's clues in there that we can ask more questions, but we're not going to put a lot of weight on the property disclosures because they're not going to tell us nearly everything at all. So, let me just make sure. And then we're going to... So the property disclosures are something you want to look at before you go to schedule a showing for the house. The other thing that I like to do before we go schedule a showing is when we're going to schedule it, I'm going to ask the other agent to make sure that the house does not have plug-ins going or candles going, and that's for 2 reasons. Number one, to protect your short-term health because, you know, that church lady perfume headache that they joke about in memes and stuff, it's real. I don't want some of my clients will come out of that and feel really sick. So part of it is protecting your short-term health, but the other part of it is if those are covering up a smell in the house, that might give us a clue to something else that's going on in the house. If there's a mildewy smell that they're trying to cover up, if there's something that hasn't been fixed or addressed that we would smell if it wasn't for those. So there's 2 purposes in that. So I'm going to ask the agent to make sure that they're not having any plug-ins or candles or anything like that going for our showing for those 2 reasons. So those are the 4 things we're going to do before we even get into the home. When we're looking at the home, we're touring the property, you know, we're not going to be inspectors. There's a stage for that, but we're going to go through the property and, you know, before we get in, we're going to look and see, does the house have the proper grading so that it's not going to collect water and have some moisture issues that can pose a really big problem. I also like to bring one of these to the homes that we look at to see what the moisture reading is in the home. If it's a high humidity, it's a facilitator for microbial growth, and we don't want that. So we're going to check all of those kind of things before we even get to a contract and inspection period. We're going to just look at, maybe we'll walk through there with an EMF reader. Is there, you know, solar panels on the house next door that we want to see if those are going to pose an EMF issue, things like that. And we're just kind of look at it aside from the aesthetics. We're going to look at those functional and health components of a home too. Obviously not being an inspector, but just looking at it with a different set of eyes, if that makes sense. So another thing I like to try to stress is opting for a second showing. So if you find a property that you like and you're like, we're really giving this some consideration, we want to do a second showing. Maybe the first showing was a half an hour, 45 minutes. Maybe we go for a second showing for 2 hours, or an hour and a half, and we say, let's look at it a little bit deeper. You know, maybe shine a flashlight around some areas where there could be some growth that we want to just maybe know about. So we're going to do a deeper second showing for as much as possible. The other thing, so you find a home you like, you know, you've done your due diligence, then you're going to put in an offer. In the offer contract, there's the part for the inspection period, and there's a date where you fill in the blank for that. fight for the 14 days because that gives us the most time to be able to do our due diligence and get whatever inspectors in there that we need to say, is there anything that we really need to know about before we go through with this? The inspection period is the time of the contract where you can pull out of the contract legally, safely, legitimately, and so if you see an issue in that time, you need to have that time to really pull out of the contract. And not to say that you see any issue. Every inspection will bring up issues. New homes and old homes alike. They'll all have dozens of pages of things that aren't perfect. The goal is really just to see if the house is where you're comfortable with it at. And so then another part of the inspection period you can do is say there's an issue here, but we really love the home. We want to get somebody else in the home during our inspection period to get an idea of how much that's going to cost to fix it, to remediate it, to whatever it is, to make it up to where you're comfortable with it. So if we do that during the inspection period, that also gives us a little bit of leverage in the negotiation period. So in our inspection response, we can say, we love the home, but hey, we want to really make sure that we're going to be able to fix this issue. So we can come up with a number or some tasks for the seller to offer, or to say we really want to see this much as far as negotiating for. Like say, hey, it's going to cost us $5,000 to make that the way we want it to be. So we're going to ask them for $5,000 for credit at closing. So my goal in that, in addition to the health factor, is to negotiate strongly on your behalf to make sure that we're working out everything we can for your benefits. So that's another part of the inspection period, and we're just maximizing that. Another thing that I like to tell people is before you put in that offer, I have some resources and some inspectors that I work with that I find are really good and really thorough, and I will give you all of that information so you can do your own research and see who you want to work with. Before you put in the inspection, make sure that your inspectors are lined up. If they're 2-3 weeks out and we put our offer in now, they can't come up for 2 weeks. We're outside of the inspection with them. So I want you to make sure that they're lined up and ready to go within a couple of days before we put our inspection, because as soon as our offer, because as soon as they accept an offer, the clock starts for that inspection. So we'll make sure they're lined up, ready to go. If they can get in there, one of them, somebody they get in there the first 3 days. Some of these tests, old tests, and air quality tests and things, they can take 2 to 5 days to come back. And so if that comes back, say we get that in the first 2 days, and then it takes 5 days to get that air quality test back. We're at 7 days. Now we got to maybe get somebody else in there who's going to say, hey, this is what it's going to take to maybe make it clearer. We need that done in the inspection window. So we want to make sure the inspectors are lined up, ready to go before we submit an offer. And then we want to make sure that we are hiring the right people. This is your one shot to make sure. So a lot rides on the inspectors. As much as I can help you look at things when we go through the houses, the inspectors are the ones who are going to do the deeper testing. A lot of them don't. A lot of them are just general inspectors. So part of my goal is to make sure that you're finding somebody, whether it's somebody that I offer you resources on or somebody that you know that's going to do a really good job looking at everything. So you're not going to be stuck with a furnace that needs to be replaced for $10,000 in 2 years. And some of that too is we can negotiate a home warranty from the seller. So that's part of it too. So making sure that you have good resources, inspectors. There are some that I've noticed in the area that they are air quality experts, but they're not inspectors. And then that gets into some iffy legal territory. So just kind of knowing isn't what they say they are around here. Being careful for that too. Remembering the legal side of things. And then, one of the things is too, remembering, like we talked about, there's no perfect home. So it's finding something that fits within the parameters that you can work with, make it what you want it. So that would be factoring in the price, the cash that you're going to have afterwards. If you say, we're going to do this, but we need to add this to the home afterwards or something, accounting for the health factors to make the home the best for you within your budget as well. So those are the 10 things that I would love to help you